Hello, and welcome to Running Commentary number 48. Chaim Baruchalevsky here in Central Park, New York City. And today is the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar. It is the last day of the month of Shvat, the first day of the month of Adar. So the tradition is Misha Nichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. When Adar, the month of Adar, which is also the month of Purim. We have 2 months of Adar this year. We have a tradition and a mitzvah to increase in joy. So that's that. And we all know how important joy is in our lives from a psychological perspective and from a spiritual, Jewish, religious perspective too. So let's keep up the joy for 60 days of joy. So this week's Parsha is Terumah. Terumah talks about the Mishkan, the temporary temple that was in the desert for 40 years with the Jewish people and then many hundreds of years later. And the Rebbe talks about an interesting perspective about the 2 modes of operation that we have in our lives, in our service to God, which are compared to and stem from the 2 modes that were in the Mishkan itself. And the premise is that when God said in the Torah, "V'asuli mikdash," make for me a mikdash or a tabernacle or a temple, "V'shachanti b'socham," and I will dwell in them. It doesn't say I will dwell in it, it says I will dwell in them. So our tradition tells us that the Mishkan and the Mikdash, the temple, wasn't only a physical structure that was once upon a time and will be, God willing, again when Mashiach comes, but it's actually a structure within ourselves. We are the Mishkan, we are the Mikdash, we are that temple in which God dwells, and we just need to make room for God to dwell visibly. And here is one perspective, one approach about how that happens, says the Rebbe in an interesting way. So the Rebbe says that, first of all, know that in the temple, the windows of the temple were narrow on the inside and wide on the outside, unlike regular windows, which are meant to bring in light. But the windows of the temple were meant to spread the light. So we are meant to spread God's light out to the world, to be a light unto the nations. Also, back to the Mishkan itself for this week's Torah portion. The Rebbe says that in the structure of the building of the Mishkan, there were 2 parts, 2 elements, 2 modes. One was we call in Hebrew the makif, and one was the panimi. Makif is the overall, surrounding, all-encompassing, and then there was the details inside. So the makif, the all-encompassing one, was the building itself, the structure. There were the beams that held the walls, that created the walls of the Mishkan, and there were the yeriot. Yeriot are the fabric, the curtains that were on top of those beams. So the Rebbe says that those beams and those curtains and those materials, they surrounded the whole Mishkan, the whole mini temple, equally. There was no difference in the size, the length, the weight, the structure. They were all exactly the same, whether or not the beam was covering, or wherever the beam or the curtains were covering, whether it was the Holy of Holies, the holiest place, a little shaky today, or it was the outside courtyard, or the mizbeach, the altars, inside or outside. And then there were the vessels that were inside. There was the Holy of Holies, there was the Aron, the Ark, there was the Shulchan, the table that held the bread, there was the menorah that held the lights, there was the altars, 2 altars inside and out. So the Rebbe says that in the Mishkan we see a general all-encompassing structure and mode of operation, and also a specific, internalized, individualized mode of operation where in the Holy of Holies, in the Aron Kodesh, you only had the tablets, you couldn't have bread in there. And on the table, you couldn't have the tablets, etc. So too, the Rebbe compares this with two modes of operation of our service to God. There's prayer and Torah is one mode, and then there's the mitzvahs, which is another. In this understanding, the Rebbe says that when it comes to prayer, and when true prayer in the true sense of the word refers to the Amida in our halachic terminology. When you're standing straight, and the whole theme of prayer is bittul. It's not about the changes, it's not about the words you're going to say. It's about bittul, which means surrender to God. We have to stand still, motionless, focus, and no matter what we're saying, it's all about our surrendering to God. With Torah, the Rebbe says they have a similar quality. When we learn the Torah, although there are different kinds of Torah study, it could be Torah study related to time-bound matters, men's halachas, women halachas, Kohanim halachas, Israel halachas, outside of Israel. So many different aspects. The Torah encompasses all of our lives. But the common denominator is that the Torah that we're learning is we make one bracha, the same blessing on the Torah, no matter what Torah we're learning. It's God's Torah and that's it. So that's the common denominator with the tefillah, just surrender. Torah, it's one mitzvah, it's all God's Torah, and it's one exercise activity. And then there's the mitzvahs. With the mitzvahs itself, every mitzvah is individualized. No two mitzvahs are the same, and we even make a separate bracha on every mitzvah. We do it with different parts of our body, with different limbs, etc. So the mitzvahs are like the internal vessels of the Mishkan, and the Torah and the tefillah, prayer, are like the all-encompassing, overarching, surrounding walls and curtains of the Mishkan. And the Rebbe goes further and says that each mitzvah is also, says there's 613 mitzvahs, 245 positive, 365 negative, and they're all matching one-to-one to another limb in our body. So there's a count that the Torah has. I don't know the details. I have to ask a doctor, a mystical doctor. But there's a count that the Torah has where there's 245 limbs and there are 365 veins or sinews or blood paths. And each one of those matches one of the mitzvahs. Anyway, that's the wrap for today. So we have our little Mishkan, which is in ourselves, the Torah, the mitzvahs, the general, the details. Let's rebuild the real deal with Mashiach now. God bless you. Enjoy your day.